The what is today? Today is the June 22nd, 2020 meeting of the Braintree Historical Commission. And we're going to open with the public hearing regarding for the address at 410 Quincy Ave, also known as the Viking Club. So Christine, I'll start by reading the advertisement that was run for 2 weeks.
Please.
Okay. Here we go. The Braintree Historical Commission public remote hearing notice. Notice is given by the Braintree Historical Commission pursuant to the terms of Title V of the Braintree General Ordinance, Chapter 5.7, that a public hearing will be remotely conducted on Monday, June 22nd, 2020 at 7:00 p.m. in accordance with Governor Baker's March 12, 20 order suspending provisions of the open meeting law to promote public health and social distancing. This meeting shall not be conducted in an open, publicly accessible place. Instead, public access to the hearing and deliberation shall be achieved by adequate alternative means that allow the public to follow the proceedings in a third-party communication technology that is readily accessible to the public, but not administered by the town of Braintree. The video link is below. For those without access to Zoom, direction for access via telephone are also below. The Braintree Historical Commission will consider an application from Chester Sherman LLC for the proposed demolition of approximately 7,400 square feet, plus or minus, buildings located at 410 Quincy Avenue, formerly known as the South Shore Viking Club. The Historical Commission shall determine if demolition would be detrimental to the historical or architectural integrity, heritage of resources of the town of Braintree, and if a demolition delay should be imposed. The application may be reviewed online at the town website at https://braintreema.gov/991/public hearings under the Department of Planning and Community Development Office. Said property with buildings is located at 410 Quincy Avenue and is approximately 2.0 plus minus acres as shown on Assessor's Map 3049, Plot 07, located in the Highway Business Zoning District. Please click the link below to join the webinar. https://us02web.zoom.us/i-83726993880 or telephone 1-301-715-8592. And the webinar ID is 837-2699-3880. We shall now open the public hearing. Shall we talk about the history of when this was raised and how we came to this point? Christine, can we do that?
Sure, I can, if you want. Attorney Marinelli is here. He can give you the presentation on behalf of the applicant.
All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name's Frank Marinelli, for the record. I represent Chester Sherman LLC, which is the owner of 410 Quincy Avenue. Just by way of background, the property is in substantial disrepair. There is no ability to rehabilitate the structure. And we submit respectfully that it has no architectural or historical significance. A couple of photographs were taken of a balustrade on May 29th, 2020, and that's it. So let me give you a little of the background and the location. As has been written about in almost every document, including anything received from Mass Historical, the property is in what is now a very heavily traveled commercial corridor. And, I've outlined that in my submission to you dated June 2nd, and all of the exhibits that we had there. We did get a response on Friday, June 19th, from town solicitor. While the response really does go into the information that we've provided, noting both external and internal modifications that have been made since the 1950s, the current state of disrepair, all of that has been provided to the commission and will be considered at the public hearing as set forth in town solicitor's memo of Friday. We don't believe that the procedure and everything outlined in my submission to the extent that that's addressed in this memo, we respectfully disagree with that content. We do agree that it's in substantial disrepair and has no significant historical or architectural significance. Mr. Quirk and his company purchased the adjacent property at 410 Quincy Avenue. It's adjacent to property that he owns at 392 Quincy Avenue, and that is currently Quirk pre-owned. We have filed with the planning board to take down the structure at 410 Quincy Avenue, and the dealership building at 392 Quincy Avenue would be extended, and all of those plans are on file with the planning board. That hearing is on July 14th. The proposed use is a use by right. The zoning district is highway business district, so the proposed use is a use by right in the highway business district. We had a purchase and sale agreement of September 2020 from the nonprofit owner, the South Shore Viking Association. We had a very good relationship throughout the course of the purchase and sale agreement through the date of closing, which was around November 12th. So for 2 months, between September and November, the Viking Club had every opportunity to remove whatever kind of memorabilia associated with a social club or whatever label you want to apply, and they did that. And then we gave them additional time because they had commitments for the function hall. Keep in mind that the single-family home that people sometimes talk about, that had long been a prohibited use in the highway business district. The highway business district was adopted in the 80s, and a single-family home is a prohibited use in the highway business district. And indeed, as we'll point out, there was very little remaining in terms of original construction and so forth. The primary use of the property was as a function room. And you will see through building department records that had a flat roof, tar roof, no real architectural significance at all, but was built as a basic vanilla box function room. That's the reason why we had to give the Viking Club until December 30th, because they had commitments renting that function room till December 30th. So then we took over on December 30th. The investment has been $2 million in the acquisition. We will invest another close to $1 million in the construction. So it's a $3 million investment in the town. Mr. Quirk certainly maintains his properties and has been very good in terms of philanthropy and associated relationships with the town throughout the years. He has been in the town for over 40 years as a business person when he first bought Tabor in 1979. So that's a background on the location, the zoning, the use by right, the disrepair and insignificance, in our view, of the building. Let me talk about the building department records because I don't know if one of the members had to get a drink of water. Okay? So when we got in there, as has been presented to your staff, there was asbestos that had to be removed. There was all sorts of things that were done in the public interest concerning things that would be should be removed from that property, debris that was there. We did not do anything in the way of demolition. This is day 108. Day 108. The Quirk team applied for a demolition permit on March 6th. This is day 108 in terms of delay. I think, and this is, I think is a matter of policy, if there is something to photograph, and I understand that COVID-19 has caused issues, but believe me, it's caused issues in the retail business, as you can all imagine, with substantial percentage of employees furloughed. Mr. Quirk and his companies employ 1,400 people approximately, and with sales and service depreciated during that time. So everyone is doing their best during COVID-19, but in terms of delay, we haven't been able to grade the site. We haven't been able to demolish what is really an insignificant building in disrepair. And that is proven by a number of sources. It's not on the historic register. A social club is not an association with a particular person or event in the town's history. And the structure is a hodgepodge of nondescript additions, materials, and repairs, which really has been an eyesore and substantial disrepair. And all you need to do is look at the blue top that was on the roof in various places through the years when leaks couldn't even be fixed during the prior ownership. We also submitted to you the testimony of architect Arthur Chu, who additionally substantiates our position that there is no reason for delay in the demolition of this building. Available building department records, which I've submitted to you, show that the structure is devoid of any unique, original, or preserved architectural features, perhaps other than the couple of photographs that Mr. Frazier took on May 29th of a stairway balustrade in the old house. But it is a compilation of different, inconsistent, and insignificant designs and materials, a vinyl siding on the older portion, brick or veneer on an addition, flat tar and gravel roof. And the specific building permits that we referred to in our brief, building permit number 388, May 10th, 2002, 18 years ago, authorized the installation of Alcoa vinyl siding over existing wood shingles, clad all trim. And this was the second time the siding had been replaced. The original siding was replaced decades earlier. So apparently there's been no original siding for decades. The front and side porches were demolished and replaced in 1984 with new construction. That was building permit number 165 in 1984. There's green paneling upstairs, 1960s type bathroom floor tiling, and that's in the so-called old house portion. And as I pointed out for years, they've had a blue top on the roof that had leaked, and the building's in substantial disrepair. We provided photographs of that as well. So the final point that I have is that there was reference to inventory in 2001 in town solicitor's response on Friday that maybe because of this inventory form referring to the structure as a second empire home, that there was enough to constitute significance as an initial determination. Of course, we disagree with that, but the Preservation Planning Division of the Mass Historical Commission did respond to your staff in May, and they stated that the town's inventory of the East Braintree and Quincy Avenue, submitted almost 20 years ago, did not meet the Mass Historical standards at that time and appear to have been returned with comments for revisions, and the revised area forms were never submitted to the Mass Historical Commission. So I think that undermines a couple of the comments about anything to do with the inventory, because it was not an accepted inventory. And the rest of the building department records you have, I won't go through them, but there had been substantial changes to anything that was original, substantial additions, including the function hall, and we respectfully submit that, of course, it's not on the National Register. I have some experience with buildings back 30 years ago when we bought the Watson School, and we had a professional building there, and we had very clearly the idea that Thomas Watson had built this school. We have other people of significance, John Adams, of course, and Sylvanus there. But respectfully, we think that we should be allowed to proceed with the demolition with all dispatch. Again, it's been 108 days on a property that we respectfully submit does not meet the town's definition of significant building, and there would be no detriment to the town's history by the demolition of this structure in substantial disrepair. Thank you very much.
Attorney Marinelli, and for the record, Christine, I'd just like to clarify a couple of points. Thank you for that. Thank you for your thoughtful and your work in preparing all the exhibits. But I'd like to just, before we open it for discussion for the members, there's a couple of things I'd like to clarify. So I understand that the demolition permit was applied for on March 6th. As you heard previously, our last meeting in March was March 2nd. And I am sorry, typically we review these very quickly as we have in the past. And I'm very sorry that it's taken this time, but what has happened is completely out of our control is that basically the government was shut down for several months. And it's only now that we're able actually to reconvene and to meet. So it's not that, I'm personally sorry that there's been this time period, but it's not through anyone's fault. It's basically an act of God that we were not able to meet. Typically, we would have met in April, and we would have followed through from that. The reason that we had talked about, there was some vague discussion that this might be coming up, and we had spoken that we would most likely need a public hearing, and we definitely need some time, the typical time that we take to investigate the history of the building. You know, right out of the gate, given an address, none of us really knows. We have our own sources, and you've actually done a lot of research to really find out whether a building is significant. And typically we, as you know, anything that's over 75 years of age, we have to look at seriously. So I also want to mention that although we do appreciate what the enormous contribution that Quirk has made to Braintree, we in the Historical Commission are our purview is to look at potentially historic properties only. And we don't really take into consideration, we don't take into consideration what the occupancy use of the building is or will become. That is either zoning or the building department or the owner. We have to look purely at the building itself and make a determination based upon that, as well as any prior neglect. Sometimes if a building has been neglected in certain areas, those parts can be restored. But so I want to mention that the time delay was through no fault, basically, and that those other things, the occupancy use, the validity of the ownership, and prior neglect really have no bearing on what we look at in terms of the building. That said, I'd like to open up to the members for discussion about, hopefully we've all looked at this and I'd like to thank you for the thoroughness of this application. This is really, I believe, an excellent standard. We're going to hold everyone to this standard. This is an excellent documentation of the property. So I would mention that we've also, in the meantime, done some independent research. We have a historic resource that was developed in 2002, in addition to your group, Attorney Marinelli, having tracked down MHC, and Christine has gone to MHC about it as well. And that property does not appear in the historic resource book. So any comments from the members? Any discussion?
I would say, Liz, one of our primary objectives in the demolition delay ordinance is to document the buildings that existed in town. In fact, I have had a number of buildings on Quincy Ave I've had people come to me asking for pictures of them because they grew up in the houses that were there and they no longer exist. One of the things that we have done with this particular building now we have documented it with photographs. I had photographed it several months ago, actually. Mary and I both went down. We took pictures of all the exterior, and when we went in recently, we took pictures of anything that was photographable interior. So one of our primary objectives in having this demo delay ordinance is to document what existed at a particular location at any time. Since the bylaw has come in, or the ordinance has come in, we've been able to do that. Prior to that, there have been many buildings in town that have been lost, that there is actually no documentation, and you know them. We did have the fellow on Commercial Street who invited us in, and we were able to point out things in there that he was able to go and resell because they were so valuable as architectural features. This was not the case in this particular one, but we're trying to help out people as well as document and do our job as the Historical Commission here. So we've done, and I also did research on the families. Haywood Street is named after the people who actually owned all the land in that area, but nobody was of any great significance except for the fact that they owned the land. So I could see nothing worthwhile in there except the fact that we did document it.
Do any of the other members have opinions or discussion points they wish to make? Anyone?
Not really.
Raina, Kate? Anything to add?
I was just going to say, you know, I was just looking at Ron's memo from May, basically, I think, stating what you were just saying, Ron. And, you know, I got the impression from this that we've sort of done what we would want to do for this particular property, and that there really wasn't more that we really could or recommend for this one. Did I read that right?
Totally agree.
Yeah. So.
Kate, do you?
Yeah, I support what Ron said.
Okay. I don't want to put people on the spot, but I want to make sure that
No, I appreciate it.
we all have a chance. Do the members feel that we are prepared to take, is there a motion to vote on the demolition delay that is before us?
I don't know. Christine has the proper wording on that, I would guess.
I think it's just a motion to approve issuance of the demolition permit. We notify the building department when the permit has been issued. I don't know if they've actually, well, they must have. That's what triggered it. So what we usually do is it's relayed in the minutes, and then we go in the next day in the chat section of that demolition permit. We put that you guys approve or disapprove whatever action you took the night before.
Okay, I will move that then.
Hold on one second. I just noticed that Bob Harris is trying to join us, but his microphone is off. So I'm trying to find his email so I can tell him that.
He should be able to hear us. He just needs to unmute.
Bob, there's a little icon at the bottom. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay when you unmute it. Little microphone and it's red. Oh,
You just did it.
hooray.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, and if there's same thing for the video, and then we could see you maybe.
Yeah.
Right next to the microphone symbol.
Bottom left.
I'm not sure.
It's like a little movie camera there.
Yeah, I don't I don't see it, but I can listen. I don't, sorry for joining late. I just got home from work.
Okay. How much did you hear?
I've heard the last few minutes. When I joined, Ron was saying basically, what was consistent with what he had written.
Excellent.
I read all the documents thoroughly. I read everything that Frank Marinelli had written. The property, it's just not a great piece of property with not a whole lot of historical significance. So unless somebody had other information to change that point of view, I think, when Ron and Mary went to take a look at it and with all the kind of summaries of various changes that were made to the building, it's just, a building whose time has come and gone.
So I think we are about.
What's that?
Ron is making a motion.
Oh, okay.
I guess
And
to grant the demolition.
Yeah, the motion would be to approve issuance of the demolition permit and find no historical significance.
Second.
And there's a second. And because, Bob, you probably missed this, but because we're doing this remote, Christine has to take a roll call vote.
Okay. So I agree.
Okay, let's start with Elizabeth Mees.
Agree, so moved.
Okay. You just have to say yay or nay.
Yay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yay. The clerk will call the roll.
Ron Frazier, Vice Chair.
Yes.
Kate Herbst.
Yay.
Sorry about the name.
No,
Santina.
it's
Santina. Gina.
Janet, no.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay. Raina Rubin
Yes.
and Bob Harris.
Yay.
It's unanimous.
Thank you all very much and for the time and energy that you volunteer, and I hope that everyone stays well.
Yes.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Attorney Marinelli, we will go in tomorrow and put that in that demolition permit in the chat section, and I'll make sure whoever the contractor is gets the notice of it.
Thank you, Christine. Good night, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you
Good
for your work.
Thank you.
So we had a few other little things, just to let you know about the Elm Street Cemetery fence. Derek tells me that it's complete now.
It is not complete.
Okay,
I was by there last week. Unless something has happened this week already, that topper fence over the tomb is not in yet.
okay. I'm glad you told me that, Ron, because we haven't paid the last of the bills. So I will, I'll get in touch with Derek in the morning. If he has any questions, should I have him give you a call? Or it's
By all
just,
means. I mean, we discussed this extensively on
okay.
February 3rd and said we were going to do it. So
And that was the fence over the tomb has
Right.
not been installed.
not been
Okay.
replaced.
All right, I will bring that to his attention and I'll get that straightened out. The other item, I think, I'm trying to find my agenda here.
2020 historic property inventory and other matters.
Thank you. So I don't know the status of the historic property application. Being remotely working, Derek's working remotely as well, and I didn't hear from him today as to what the status is, so I really can't report to you on that. But I will tell you that on other matters, Old Souls did get their Mass Preservation Project Fund Award. So they had gone to the Community Preservation Committee and had the funding. I don't remember the exact amount, but they only got 50,000 from the state grant. So we'll go back, and there was a formula there depending on how much they were able to get, how much we would be matching, but it's primarily for the chimney work to be done. So that's about the only thing new that I wanted to tell you about, other than that informational meeting that's going to go on, because that does involve that residence on Liberty Street that everyone's had an interest with. So I would suggest that if you had a few minutes and could tune in tomorrow night, Melissa Santucci-Razzi in my office has been spearheading that project, and they want to put forward what alternatives may be available to preserve the home and to potentially preserve some of the open space behind the home, but at the same time allow some development where the Sunoco or a Shell station, I figure the gas station is, but I don't want to give too much away because I know you're dying to watch it.
Christine, will there be anything different than what we heard at the community preservation meeting?
No, it's common knowledge now that the developer has an opportunity for a CVS. And so, you know, the details of that you'll hear about tomorrow night. But tomorrow night's to see how the community feels about what alternatives may be available. So, and other than that, you know, where we're all working remotely, unfortunately, Mayor Kokoris, everyone must know by now, has had the COVID. Last conversation with him, you know, he sounded good, but from what we understand, he's very tired. And so there isn't a lot of communication. And basically, Nicole Taub, the town solicitor, is kind of spearheading everything. So we kind of wait to hear from them as to what's going on.
Christine, did anybody else in town hall get it, or just the mayor?
I don't know the answer to that. I know that Nicole, who works very closely with him, did quarantine at home. And the last I heard was she did not have it. So she is back in the office. So presumption being that she doesn't have it. And Steve, Larry, and the others have been working. So we haven't heard anything, but you know, just as far as what's going on around town, you people, I know about as much as you do, that, you know, we read the newspaper. So if the 40B application does become an alternative, you know, well, there is an application filed for that Grove Street and Liberty. That will be a demolition delay. I think you'll want to probably consider for a hearing, but we'll cross that bridge if it comes to that. So other than that, the building permits haven't had anything of any substance. They've been mostly decks and pools that are going on. So.
Okay. You have on here the minutes of the, on the agenda, it says 3-2, but it's actually the minutes that we received were 2-3.
I know. I think I need to check with Derek because he did those minutes, if you notice, and I think it is the one that Elizabeth is talking about. So if you guys don't mind, let's just table those.
Yeah.
I'll get this straightened out, what's going on, and then I'll put them in the packet for next month.
Okay.
Now, is there, so typically you take the summer off and we have a meeting in September, unless I hear differently. Is that still the status quo?
Well, is the Liberty Street thing going to come up, you think, or?
Well, I think what you'll see tomorrow night or Wednesday night, I forget which night it is, that there's a whole a timeline of things to happen, and nothing would happen before that would concern the house before September.
Right.
So I don't think, you know, you have to worry about that. I mean, we could always call a special meeting, but I didn't know if there's things that you folks want on an agenda, or otherwise we'll just move everything to September.
That's fine with me, and I feel like we're all probably available if something comes up.
Okay.
Whether we want to be or not.
That's it.
Okay.
Sorry about our addition to the meeting for a while.
It's all right.
Makes it
Public is
interesting.
a public meeting. Everyone was welcome.
My mom had a all-day court hearing and she was sitting here because we can close the doors, and he came flying in and said, I want to see what a judge looks like. I want to see a judge. And she just said, I'm sorry, Your Honor, but better he see you like this than in the courtroom.
Oh.
All right,
So
so,
if we're done, I think we can adjourn. We just need to do a roll call again, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Move adjourn.
second,
Okay. Elizabeth Mees,
Yes, let's adjourn.
Ron Frazier,
Yes.
Kate Herbst,
Yes.
Santina Jean
Giannino.
Janina.
Nino. If I'm
Yay.
so sorry. Raina Rubin
yes.
and Bob Harris.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, folks, for being patient with all this. It may be the norm for a bit, we're not sure, but I'll keep you informed how things are going. And if I don't see you, have a nice summer.
Okay, well,
Good
You
night.
too.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. So Steve,